Hello and welcome back to another episode of our podcast Off-Field Antics. Of course, today we have a lot to talk about, but first, before we get into any of that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Charlie, who's going to hit us all with a bit of Premier League nostalgia.
Yeah, I'm hitting you right with some Premier League nostalgia. Look at this beauty. I was clearing out some of my old stuff in one of my storage units, mate, and honestly, this is a piece of beauty. I think it's the 2005-2006 Premier League Ball Special Edition.
Yes, in gold.
If I'm not mistaken.
This looks gorgeous.
Straight away brings Wayne Rooney vibes, Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm trying to think of other players at that time. Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, would they have been kind of kicking about at that point, I suppose, in their early parts of their career?
Alan Shearer's last competitive season, his last before retiring.
Mate, that's quite important for you. But look at this. This is absolutely stunning. It's got the old Premier League logo on the back, which you absolutely love to see.
I love that
and I just couldn't help but show you this to you all. So what I'm going to do, it's also got the C90 thing, you know, Wayne Rooney right there. I thought I couldn't help but show you guys. I'm going to be cleaning this up and pumping it up and using it. Or maybe just putting it on a shelf at my new house at university. You know what? I think I might do that. Chuck it in the new house, have it as part of, like, you know, a little mini studio, have it in the background, so you might see a lot more of this football. But that's enough of the nostalgia. Let's talk about our kits quickly before we jump into, obviously, the breaking news this week about Liverpool winning the Premier League. We'll jump into that in just a moment. But firstly, I am wearing a bit of a wacky kit. It is the Kaiser Chiefs kit from, I don't know, about 2016-17, I'd like to say. Not 100% sure, but it's one of those kits where your dad goes away on a work trip or on holiday and he brings back something for you. And he went to South Africa on a work trip and he brought back this gorgeous little number. You got the Vodafone kind of Vodacom thing here as a sponsor. I love the badge as well, and I like the way that they've incorporated like the kind of mane of the lion into the stripes of the kit. I'm not sure if you can see that. But it's a lovely, lovely kit. I don't wear it very often, I will admit, because it's a bit out there and I don't exactly support Kaiser Chiefs. But, you know, if I'm looking for something just to lounge around in, this is perfect. Yeah. It's perfect for the podcast.
I have a similar thing. I have a Japan top with my dad. He went to Japan with work and he brought me back their current kit, which is the camouflage blue, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's such a stunning kit. But, focusing on mine now, I'm wearing a retro Newcastle top. Look at that badge. Look at the old badge on that.
Love that.
This is essentially is the coat of arms of Newcastle. That's what we used to have as our badge. This kit comes from 1974, so quite a way back. This kit was worn actually in the 1974 FA Cup final against Liverpool, which we unfortunately lost 3-0 to the Scousers. Kevin Keegan scored a brace that day, who of course since then went down in Geordie folklore for all the things he did for the club. But I'm wearing it also because of course Newcastle, as we're recording this on a Saturday, tomorrow we'll be playing in the FA Cup quarter-final against Manchester City. Hopefully we can get through to the semis. It would be fantastic if we did, albeit I won't be there to see it. The reason why I say this is because in this kit we beat West Brom 3-0 in the fifth round of the FA Cup away at the Hawthorns, and this season in the fifth round we beat West Brom away at the Hawthorns, albeit
was it 3-0?
It was 3-2, but albeit we did go 3-0 up though, so you know, is there a little bit of maybe a bit of faith
you
in
never
there?
know.
Destiny? You like to think so. Like I said, we got to the FA Cup final on this top whilst beating West Brom away in the fifth round, and this season we've done the same, so you never know.
That's
Obviously,
quality, mate.
Time will tell tomorrow whether we can actually do a job on Manchester City, but you know, I think if we'd had the crowd behind us it might have been a bit better, because I think they really are our 12th man, as you get with a lot of teams as well. And you know, the game was originally meant to be under the lights at St James's Park back in March, and I think that would have been absolutely fantastic. But obviously, without that, I think maybe the quality of the teams will come through instead. So, with that being said, I'm not particularly confident, but I'm very much welcome for a surprise.
How long's it been since Newcastle United have been in the quarter-final of the FA Cup?
2006 was the last time. In fact, I believe it was 2005.
So the same year?
I think so, yeah. I think it was.
Meant to be. Well, we'll quickly touch on that. I think personally, I think City might be a little bit rattled by their 2-1 defeat to Chelsea. Of course, the result that meant that Liverpool have become Premier League champions for the very first time. And we will touch on that. We'll talk about that in depth in a moment. But quickly touch on what you've just brought up, the Newcastle game against Man City tomorrow at St James's Park. I believe it's a 6:15 or 6:30 kickoff, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's 6:30.
From a Brighton fan's perspective, they might be a little bit rattled, Man City, and Newcastle haven't looked half bad. You could have done a job for us and beaten Aston Villa.
Yeah,
Come on,
I
you can't be conceding an
apologise.
86th minute equaliser to El Mohammadi. That's just criminal
behaviour.
behaviour.
Ex-Sunderland and ex-Hull, it wasn't pretty.
No. Wait, he played for Sunderland.
I'm sure El Mohammadi played for Sunderland. I'm sure he did.
Oh mate, if he did, you can't be having that. That's just bonkers.
And
As well as getting a point.
As much as I don't want to cause any, friction on this podcast, Aston Villa are not my favourite club by any stretch. So, for a couple of reasons, think 2009, think 2016. For all those Geordies watching, you'll understand why. So we
Did they send you down by any chance?
Twice.
Oh, mate, that's...
Well, to be fair, in 2016, it was actually Sunderland who did the full job on sending us down, which hurt even more. But Villa, they drew with us 0-0 at home when the season that they were terrible and finished bottom. But in doing so, that meant that all Sunderland had to do was beat Everton at home a couple of days later to send us down. In 2009, Villa did beat us 1-0. It was a Gareth Barry shot deflected off Damien Duff that went in 2008-09, sent us down.
I feel like these are bad memories coming back to you, Danny. They're not quite there, but they're kind of in the back of your mind, and it's kind of torturing you. You probably still have nightmares about them.
I can remember both days.
Yeah, I can imagine. To be honest, though, I can't actually really imagine because I can't relate to you. I've never experienced Brighton get relegated from the Premier League. It's never happened, obviously, at all, because this is the first time we've been in the Premier League ever, and we're going into, hopefully, our 4th successive season in the Premier League. For one, that's just absolutely incredible. Looking back at where we've come from in the space of 2 decades is absolutely unbelievable. Not having a ground, almost going into the abyss, going out of the Football League into the National League, and now we're in the Premier League about to hopefully enjoy a full season. It's just absolutely unbelievable. But moving from the bottom of the table to the top of the table, and as I mentioned before, Liverpool have now been crowned victors of the Premier League. They are champions for the first time in their history, and to be honest, that sounds kind of weird because, think about 10 years ago, Liverpool were kind of struggling mid-table, 7th, 8th position, kind of like a Wolves kind of club. Obviously a huge club, way bigger than Wolves, but they were kind of struggling, and now Jurgen Klopp's come in, and within 5 years he's taken them from that kind of position to not only Premier League champions but Champions League winners, Champions League runners-up the year before, Club World Cup champions. What a bloody manager. What are your thoughts on Liverpool winning the league?
I love Jurgen Klopp. I think he's fantastic. My thoughts on... Well, look, massive congratulations to them. I know we shouldn't really have biases on other clubs, but after a couple of years of Man City dominance, I sort of did want to see some change. So I'm happy for Liverpool to win the league in that sense. There's been a lot said about Liverpool's 30 years of hurt of not winning the league. But in that 30 years, they've won still an awful lot of trophies. They've won an awful lot of FA Cups, some League Cups.
2 Champions Leagues.
Yeah. I'm thinking, I'm sat here as a Newcastle supporter. I'd love that. If that's 30 years of hurt, I'd take that in an absolute heartbeat. As a Brighton supporter, I don't know what you must think if that's 30 years of hurt.
We've not won like a major trophy at all. If that's 30 years of hurt, 20 years ago, we were nearly, as I said, relegated to the National League and didn't have a stadium. We were borrowing Gillingham's ground. We were going between the Goldstone and... Mate, honestly, in the Withdean, we've had so many stadiums within the last 3 decades. Liverpool have been at Anfield dominating for pretty much their whole history with a little hiccup here and there. I say a little hiccup, 30 years is quite the hiccup, but I mean,
they've still won
they're
things.
a huge club and they've won so many things in between. They've not only have they been winning trophies, it's not like they've been singular occasions. They've done it on many occasions. They've been competing consistently for this kind of thing. Yeah, not the Premier League maybe, but they have still had quite close calls in recent years. Remember the Stephen Gerrard sleep and Demba Ba running through on goal. That stopped for winning the title. Last season, Glenn Murray nearly handed you the Premier League title when we went 1-0 up against Man City, Liverpool fans. But unfortunately, Man City turned that around and won 4-1. But I mean, you've got 98 points last season, if I'm not mistaken. You've had some very exciting seasons, so I'm not sure about 30 years of hurt, but I can understand, the kind of relief after probably all the torment you've had from rival fans who've been winning the league. Man United fans in particular have won, 13 Premier League trophies, and you not to have a single one? They're your biggest rivals. That must hurt, but now you've got that. And, as Danny said, I'll echo that. Congratulations, what an achievement. Yeah, and this is exciting because, yes, last season we had, obviously, the competition between City and Liverpool down to the wire. This season's not been quite as exciting because Liverpool have gone, 23 points clear and they've won it with 7 games to go, which, by the way, here's a cool stat. It's the earliest a Premier League team have ever won the league in a 38-game season, after 31, 7 games left, earliest ever. Yet also the latest because of the whole COVID situation.
Exactly, yeah.
June,
it's
what
really
was it? Let's have a think. June 25th, I think it was, 2020. That's the latest a team has ever won the Premier League as well. So that's quite an interesting stat. But as I say, congratulations to them. Incredible achievement. Have you got anything more to say on it?
Not really too much. As I say, just congratulations to them. As much as they've run away with the league, obviously they completely deserve it. I'd like to see maybe a bit more an exciting Premier League next season. Hopefully with some Saudi money we might. No, I'm only kidding. I think
not that soon.
I think if that comes in, I think it'll take at least a couple of seasons to build.
Yeah.
You can't just do it like that. As much as money operates football these days, you can't just go splashing cash on everyone. It doesn't work like that. Man City, they got taken over in 2007 or 8 or whenever it was, and they took a few years to get into their stride the way they are now, sort of thing. So obviously, massive congratulations to Liverpool, but let's hope for maybe a bit more of a duel next season.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've got a surprise candidate who might actually challenge them for the title. There's a few, actually. I can see a few teams who might be going in there. I'm not saying that the Liverpool of the level of Liverpool or Manchester City, but I think they can definitely get there. Chelsea, for one. Timo Werner and Hakim Ziyech. Incredible signings.
Very good signings.
With the young players they've already got, probably one of the best defensive midfielders in the world in N'Golo Kante. Their defence is a little bit dodgy, I would admit. Kepa Arrizabalaga, it's not been...
He's not as good as Mo
Diarmi. Oh God, the Wigan and Newcastle and Hull legend
and West Ham.
Mo Diarmi. West Ham as well. He's been all over the place.
See, the thing is with Mo Diarmi, in the back end of the 2017-18 season, the season that we both were back in our first seasons, and then when you came up as well, just with us, he turned into prime Patrick Vieira for about 10 games, and it was unbelievable. Honestly, for the end of that season, he was unplayable, and John Joe Shelby was the same. We were all calling him for him to go to the World Cup, but of course he didn't, which was a bit of a shame. But I obviously Mo's gone now, but we miss him because at times he could be inconsistent and didn't always say it seemed like he was putting the effort in, but at times he was absolutely unplayable and he'd win things in the midfield, he'd drive with the ball, and it was absolutely... Honestly, I remember sitting next to my dad watching the match, and every time you'd think, who's put that tackle in, he's got, it's Mo Diarmi once again. I think now, though, to be fair to Isaac Hayden, he's doing that job now, and he's doing an absolutely fantastic job. He had a bit of an issue against Aston Villa. He picked up a bit of a knock, but against Sheffield United in our first game back, Isaac Hayden was absolutely fantastic. He's one of our most underrated players, and he has he's not exactly massively young anymore, but he's not old yet, so I think he still has a massive future ahead of him because he's really doing bits for us right now.
Yeah, well, we were linked to Isaac Hayden last summer, I believe, or last winter.
Yeah, you were.
And I was kind of thinking, I'm a bit unsure about this. Do I want Isaac Hayden? We've got some good defensive midfielders, but you're right. I've been watching him this season after we've been linked to him. You kind of get an eye on him after being linked to someone, and he has been terrific. But moving back to Chelsea, N'Golo Kante, obviously a fantastic player. Their defence is a little bit on the rocks, but they've got some good defenders in Christensen in particular in the middle, and Kurt Zuma, got some good young defenders, Rudiger as well. Marcus Alonso is maybe getting on a little bit, but Emerson's quite a good backup at left back. Reece James at right back as well has pushed someone out the door in Tarek Lamptey, who's joined Brighton, which I'm delighted about. Kepa has had his mistakes, but we'll see what kind of keeper he develops into, because David De Gea for Man United took a few years to kind of become the world-class player he was. I think that Chelsea
question, Charlie, what are your thoughts on David De Gea?
David De Gea, I think he was the best goalkeeper in the world about 2 seasons ago. I went to Wembley when Tottenham were playing at Wembley, and they played Man United. They won 1-0. I thought, why not? Let's go to this. It was like 15 quid to watch that game. It's like, yeah, why not? And David De Gea had an absolute worldie of a performance. Honestly, he must have made about 15 saves in that game. The best performance I've ever seen in the flesh of a goalkeeper, and that's when he was at his prime, and he was doing so well for a couple of years, but then he started to make a few mistakes. United weren't doing very well, they were falling down the table, they weren't competing for top four anymore, they were more going for Europa League football, and he kept making those mistakes, his confidence was dropping, and now I wouldn't say he's an average keeper. I think he's still a very good goalkeeper, but I wouldn't say he's up there with the Alissons, the Edisons of the Premier League, or the Stegens or the Oblaks of Europe. He's not at that level anymore, but I think he could get there again if he gets some confidence. And with United, the way they're playing at the moment, mate, with Bruno Fernandes, he has been such a good signing for Man United. The way he's linked up with Paul Pogba, Scott McTominay as well, those three in the middle, and you've got so many options with great pace up front, and they're not old either, they're all young players. Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial, Mason Greenwood, Daniel James are probably missing some players here. They've got some terrific options, and just like Chelsea, I think United could challenge, not for the title, but I think definitely for top four next season and be in and around there if they perform at the top of their ability. So, as I said about David De Gea, moving back to that, if United start to pick up some more points and do better, move back into the Champions League, I could see him becoming one of the world's best again. But for now, he's just good.
I think David De Gea, I think his form started to dip. I'm going to put it at the 2018 World Cup. I think he had a poor tournament there. You know, obviously, in the first game against Portugal, that he let that Ronaldo shot to make it 2-1 to Portugal slip through his hands. I can't think off the top of my head any other things, but I just remember having him not having a brilliant World Cup. And then
you didn't have a good tournament, no.
No, and then since then, as I say, he had that game you've just mentioned, but he's certainly not hit the heights he once did. And yeah, I think he's far from the best keeper in the world. I read a tweet the other day saying that right now Martin Dubravka is better than David De Gea. I don't know what you make of that, but I know I'm being very biased here, but
I think Martin Dubravka is a very underrated player. Not many people rate Dubravka. I think has he made the most saves in the Premier League?
He has, honestly.
He has made a lot of mistakes though, hasn't he? He's also up there with the most mistakes for a goalkeeper.
Mistakes-wise, he's made a couple, but honestly, I'd say if you compared the points he's dropped us to the points he's saved, the points he'd saved us, absolutely, when he's on it, he's unbelievable. Some of the saves, I think it was against Crystal Palace away this season back in, I think, February. We lost that game 1-0, but he made two absolutely unbelievable saves that you would not expect anyone to make from, I think, set pieces, and I just don't know how he made them at all. And you watch that and you just think, how? I think there was when we played it was Wolves away and we drew 1-1 this season. Miguel Almiron opened the scoring for us before we were pegged back. He made another couple of unbelievable saves in that to get us a point in that game. And you just think, this man cost in modern day football absolutely next to nothing. Found by Rafa Benitez, playing in I can't even remember where it was, to be honest, but in a lowly league, and now he's up there with some of the best keepers in the Premier League. You just think, what a rise and what a goalkeeper. Despite some of the, yes, he's made a couple of mistakes, but all goalkeepers do every now and then. And for what it's worth, some of the points he's saved us have been absolutely fantastic. Some of the saves he's made are unbelievable.
So are you telling me that you think he's better than David De Gea? Would you rather have in your team David De Gea or Martin Dubravka?
Right now, Martin Dubravka.
Oh my God.
2 years ago...
I can't believe you're saying that.
Right now, Martin Dubravka, but I think De Gea has the potential to be better. I think if they're both at their peak, De Gea is a better keeper, but right now, Dubravka is better. That's the way I'm putting it.
Okay. Do you want to hear what I think?
Yeah, I'd love to.
I think you're a bit of a nutter, but I can definitely see where you're coming from. David De Gea has been in the worst form of his life, apart from maybe at the start when he started his career at United after coming from Atletico Madrid. I think Dubravka's a very good keeper, as I said. He's very underrated, but I don't think he's quite at that elite level yet. I think if he was, he'd be picked up by another big team. And to be honest, I don't see any big bids coming in soon for Martin Dubravka. Is he tied down to a long-term contract?
Trying to think, actually. Yeah, well, when he first...
Because he could get poached otherwise.
When he first he first arrived in the January of 2018, so the 2017-18 season. And then, obviously, we had him on loan to the end of that season. And then we signed him on a permanent in the summer of 2018.
Must have been a 5-year deal, so 2023, I imagine.
Around that, yeah. So I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon, certainly. But
yeah,
I mean, when was it? I did a little while ago hear of some interest from maybe clubs like Arsenal, because of course they've historically had a bit of a keeper problem in terms of
I think Leno's good though. Obviously, Leno got injured against Brighton, but he's been terrific.
Neil Maupay did him no favours, certainly.
Neil Maupay, mate. I tell you what, he is living rent free not only in Bernd Leno's head, not only in Mate Guendouzi's head or Arsenal fans' heads, just living rent free in North London in general. Have you heard Matteo Guendouzi? He wasn't involved at all in Arteta's squad at the weekend, and now he's meant to be being shipped off to the Serie A. Yeah. It's incredible. I'm not saying it's all Neil Maupay, but it is hilarious to watch as a Brighton fan. Matteo Guendouzi go from saying to Maupay, well, you're never going to earn how much I earn. Maupay earns 10k more a week, and then going off and maybe getting sold. His attitude.
But with that being said, is Kasper Schmeichel, not living rent free in Neil Maupay's head?
Well, I mean, it wasn't okay, right? Okay, that hurts. That hurts because we started so well against Leicester. Don't get me wrong, I'm so happy with the 0-0 against Leicester. It might sound really boring, and don't get me wrong, it was a horrendous game. It was one of the most boring games I've watched this season, along with Wolves, the last game I actually went to in person.
Up there with the Merseyside derby last week. That was
awful as well. But Kasper Schmeichel, mate, it wasn't that good of a save. But yes, I suppose he is probably living. It was a poor penalty. I don't think Schmeichel's living rent free in Maupay's head. I think it's more Maupay will realise, okay, that wasn't a good enough penalty, and I need to work on my penalty taking. Otherwise, Pascal Gross will take my spot, or McAllister, or Trossard, or Murray, whoever's on the field should be taking him instead of him. I think Aaron Connolly or McAllister should have taken it rather than Maupay. But if you do look at the facts, Maupay is our top scorer on 9. The second most of our club is on 3. I think that's Lewis, Dunk, Adam Webster and own goals, and Trossard. So you would probably give it to our top scorer, and he's clinical. So I do understand that. But from this point on, we've only had 2 penalties this season. I can't remember. I think the first one was taken by Pascal Gross. He might have been taken by Maupay, actually. But yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say, to be honest. He probably should have been on the penalty, but we should definitely look at our takers going forward.
With regards to penalties, it's sort of a tricky issue at Newcastle because our penalty taker is Matt Ritchie, but he's missed a couple of his last ones he's taken. He missed against Southampton on the last game before the Premier League got cancelled for obviously COVID-19. He missed again. Well, I say missed, had them saved against Everton last season when we actually beat Everton 3-2, having been 2-0 down.
You weren't there for that though, were you?
No, I actually saw you that day. Do you remember that
did?
One? Yeah.
Well, that's a little story to quickly tell, actually. So there was this UCFB or was it Sheffield?
This was UCFB.
So the UCFB is basically a football course, or not just football, but kind of sports and football in general. And there's loads of different courses they do. One of them being journalism and sports journalism. Me and Danny had both gone to this open day at Wembley Stadium. I think it was in like March or February of last year or something, something like that.
March the 10th,
9th or something, 10th? I remember this now because it was the same day of the week in February as it was in March, and I actually turned up a month early. But it's open day on a day Brighton were playing as well. I missed out on seeing Brighton play to go to Wembley to watch and to go to this open day, and then I ended up having to go. What I did was I was so annoyed at myself. I ended up spending over £100 that day on train tickets. I went down to the Amex, saw us play Burnley, and I think it was 1-1 or we lost. And it was in the pouring rain. I was on one of the front rows, awful view, got absolutely pissed it down, absolutely freezing cold. And mate, one of the worst days I've had. But then, a month later, I met you at this UCFB Open day.
The thing is that we had already met. Oh wait, no, that was the first time we met, and then we met again. At Sheffield Open Day. When was that? I forget when that was. Actually.
That must have been April, I think, or May.
April, certainly, yeah.
So that was quite an experience. And we had that that journalist you went back on the tube with as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tim Collins. Yes,
that was absolute quality.
He was lovely. Him.
I had to write about a press release about Tottenham's new stadium.
Yes,
and there was about 50 of us sat in a room.
You got
me and you. We're both asked to read it out, and there's only 5 people of the 50 asked to read, so that was quite nerve-wracking. But But yeah, that was
I
the
know,
first
I
time I met
remember.
you, and we didn't even realise until
Well,
we
that's the
kind of
thing,
talked about it
because
after we become mates.
That's the thing, because at Sheffield, then I remember talking to you just out of the blue, because I remember when we were upstairs doing that sort of icebreaker sort of thing, you had meant, like, the girl who you were sat with had mentioned how you had a Brighton page, and you had, what, at the time, probably, about 9,000 followers or something, roughly. And then I think when we went back downstairs, I was like, so, you support Brighton, do you? And then now look at us, and now look what's happened, honestly.
And now we're recording a podcast, the 4th episode of Off-Field Antics, and we've actually been talking for 25 minutes already. Like, we honestly, it just flows off the tongue. I don't know if it's any good fun for you guys to listen at home. I hope it is, because it's good fun for us to record. It's basically like chatting down the pub. But today we've mentioned, obviously, Liverpool winning the league title. Congratulations to them. Let's hope for a more competitive season next season. We've touched on Newcastle and their chances in the FA Cup
tomorrow.
We've touched on how Brighton have done so well, how Mopé is living rent-free, not only in Guendouzi's head and Arsenal fans' heads, but in North London. And yeah, we talked about quite a lot. Talking about Aston Villa as well before. I think they're playing right now. So I'm going to quickly check that scoreline. What do you reckon? What do you reckon, Danny?
I'm going to still, with the sort of way it's been so far in the league, I'm going to still say 0-0.
It is 0-0 because the first halves of games
have just not had any goals in them at all.
Yeah, they've been very boring. But I'm hoping I'm going to go off this now and watch the second half of that game. It's quite crucial in the relegation race.
I think it's as, the first half players, obviously, with them just getting back into the swing of things, they keep it sort of quite tight in the first half, not wanting to make any mistakes. But by the time the second half comes in, legs are getting tired, mistakes are starting to get made, goals are starting to get scored. I think that's how it works. Or is working, I should say.
By the time this is out, it'll be way finished by then. All the games of Saturday will probably be finished, and they might even be on Sunday by the time this is out with my internet connection.
We might be in the FA Cup semi-final by the time this comes out.
You literally might be, but quickly, promise we're not cheating. It is the 39th minute as we speak in the Aston Villa Wolves game. What's your prediction for the end? Yeah.
1-0 Wolves.
It's going to be 2-0 Wolves, mate. Diogo Jota and Jimenez. Okay, if that happens, I'm a psychic, and you have to subscribe. And not only subscribe if you're not already, but you have to share this to 10 mates. You should have put
a bet on that. If you're going to pull that out the bag, put a bet on.
Well, maybe I will at half time. But anyway, it's been a pleasure, Danny, talking about all sorts.
Certainly has indeed.
Just have a look at this again, just to end the podcast. A thing of beauty.
Gorgeous, mate.
I'm obsessed.
Have a look at this obsessed. As I said last time, I love a centre badge.
You do, and you've got plenty of them. That cupboard is full of Newcastle kits. But honestly, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching and listening at home. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, do leave a like. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you very much for joining me, Danny.
Pleasure is... no, I've cocked that. I'll try and say that again. It was absolutely fantastic, Charlie, as per usual. Hopefully the next one's just as good. And hopefully... we get into the semi-finals of the FA Cup, and hopefully Brighton manage to stay up as well. I think Newcastle are safe, and I think Brighton can do it.
Yes, well, good luck in that game. No one actually commented this on the last one. We're going to give you another opportunity now. Not sure if anyone made it to the end last time, but if you did make it to the end this time, you got to comment, "Away the Seagulls." H-O, not H-A, because that's how the Sunderland fans say it. So you must put H-O. But "Away the Seagulls" if you've made it all this way to the end. And as I said, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.
See you soon. Goodbye.